This week, and after paying a few $100 million, the billionaire Jared Isaacman will go to space for the second time. He's not the first one to do that, and neither will be the last. Many millionaires for the past 20 years have paid huge amounts of money to spend a few days in space. But for what reason? Aren't there more useful ways to spend your money? Don't we have enough problems on Earth that we need to waste all of the resources on a short and expensive trip for a few rich people? This is what most people think, that they are just doing expensive marketing campaigns, or that they don't know any other way to spend their resources, and that any of us from our homes would know better than them what to do with this money. Right? Yeah, sure. But there is another side to these expensive journeys that no one takes into account. The fact that every new endeavor that humanity has ever done during all its history was done by the wealthy people first. And it's not because they are smarter or special, no, it's just because they have the money and the time to do whatever they want. They don't need to be working 5 days a week like you do. So let's have a look at the true consequences of these actions and try to understand why these billionaires going to space will make your life much better, even if you hate them for it. You probably have heard about some billionaire going to space before, and it's usually reported in the mainstream media like they are stealing millions or murdering kids, as if someone else going to space could have a negative effect on you. They are often adventurous people that have made lots of money and that want new experiences that no one else has had, similar to a Titanic submarine or the people that want to be carried to the top of Mount Everest. Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos are the most famous to do that. It's true that their trips to space were done to promote their respective companies and were nothing in comparison to what an astronaut does, but many others have done much more, like Dennis Tito, who did it in 2001 when he spent a week in the International Space Station. In total, around 10 millionaires have spent some time in space, either in the ISS or in a capsule, but since SpaceX developed the Crew Dragon 4 years ago, these trips are becoming more common. But what are they accomplishing with these missions? Are they just for fun, or do they achieve something else? Let's look at one of the most famous of these missions, Inspiration 4, which launched in 2021 with already mentioned Jared Isaacman and 3 more people that he paid for. They weren't his rich friends, but a group of normal people selected for the mission and that had the objective of raising funds for a children's cancer hospital apart from doing some science experiments. This mission was a complete success, and I recommend you to have a look at the Netflix documentary if you haven't. They not only explain the mission, but all the necessary preparation, and it's a good opportunity to understand how much is needed to do one of these endeavors. This was the first full commercial mission, meaning that all the space travelers were civilians and that was fully paid without government money. It's true that Jared is not your average civilian. Apart from building Shield 4, the company that made him a billionaire, he's an experienced jet pilot and he also owns a huge fleet of fighter jets, but he was no astronaut and a civilian at the end. In any case, it looks like Jared enjoyed the experience as he agreed to do 3 more missions with SpaceX so that he could satisfy his adventurous spirit and SpaceX could have a guinea pig to test their new developments and to expand the type of operations that they do in space. And this week, the first one of these missions is launching from Florida. After the huge success of the Inspiration 4 mission, Jared allegedly paid $500 million to do the 3 Polaris missions, which they are starting now. The second will launch on a Falcon 9 in the future and has been hypothesized that they could try to service the Hubble Space Telescope, raising its orbit and fixing the issue with its gyroscopes. And the last mission will be in theory the first human-rated mission using Starship. I don't know when we will see that one, because there is still a lot of development to do until we see humans on that rocket, but it's nice to think that they are already preparing for that. But going back to the current mission, Jared will be also commanding it, and this time he's bringing a close friend who is also a pilot and 2 SpaceX engineers. Although the previous Inspiration 4 was a huge step forward, this one is much more ambitious and a big improvement in commercial spaceflight, as they are doing much more research and science, and they will be performing the first commercial spacewalk ever, which means that they will depressurize the entire capsule and 2 of them will step out into space for a few minutes. This may not seem that big at first glance, but it's a huge accomplishment as you need to develop new spacesuits capable of surviving in the vacuum and temperatures of space. They are basically a spacecraft with human form, and SpaceX needs them not only for this mission, but also for the Moon and Mars if they want to fill them with thousands of people eventually. And finally, they will also be testing Starlink communications in space, which is as complicated as trying to send information with a laser beam between objects moving at several kilometers per second. These tests will be very useful for any company interested in sending satellites into space, as communicating with them is difficult, and if this works as expected, SpaceX could possibly offer this infrastructure to other enterprises so that they don't need to worry about it. Something like installing hardware on your satellite, paying a fee, and then having full communication with it in space. All of this will be done during the 5 days that the mission lasts, and it will be live streamed so that all of us can watch it. But let's go back to the original question. Is this a good way to spend our resources? Is this truly advancing spaceflight, or is this just a quick plan to waste money while they are 5 days in zero gravity? If you look only at the current mission and the goals, it's normal to think that there are more important things to do. Not for nothing, this spacewalk is going to cost several $100 million and will only achieve the same thing that was accomplished 60 years ago during the Gemini missions. But if we always thought like this, we would have accomplished nothing in our history, like the Wright brothers flying for the first time. What were they doing? Just a small 12-second flight for a machine that could not carry anything. This could also look like a waste of money. And now, try to imagine a world without airplanes. This mission is just a small step in the ladder of progress that will lead us to a brighter future. And the best part is that this is being paid by someone else and that it is happening whether we like it or not, but there is much more than this mission. If we want to have a good idea about our future in space and the role that the Billionaires missions will have on it, it's always good to look at the previous big advancements in human history, as patterns tend to repeat and there are many things that we can learn from them. For example, the first missions that discovered America were also done by wealthy people. The first cars, the first computers, the first phones. You get the idea. It's impossible for a new technology to be cheap and available to everyone immediately. Things need time to progress, and the bigger the step forward, the more time is needed. The first people to use any given technology are always the rich individuals that have the money, the time and the will to do it, and we need to be thankful for it. There is no way to make spaceflight cheap and available for everyone if no one spends huge amounts of money before, and the only ones that will invest this money are the people that have it, and as long as they can have some fun doing it. This is not a smart investment. This is not something that will have a positive returns in the short term. This is something that only the people that have lots of money and that are willing to lose it can do, not something that you and I can invest and have a nice 10% return like the S&P 500. No, we need adventurous and extravagant people to do these type of things, in the same way as we need fanatic people driving sports cars that advance the technology for the rest of us, and that we need people crazy enough to push the limits of our technology in ways that the rest cannot afford. Let them do this and any other thing. Let them waste their money while advance our technology and let them push the limits with their resources because no one else has the money or the will to do it. Instead of criticizing some billionaires that spend their money in things that are harmless to you and that may even be beneficial in the long run, let's enjoy their adventures and hope that one day we will also be part of them, as it has happened many times during human history and as it will happen again and again in the future. What do you think? Would you spend this amount of money differently, or would you be a risk addict like some of these people? Leave a comment with your thoughts and subscribe if you want more of this. And as always, take care and learn more.